What's going on, dive buddies? Thank you for coming back here to Certified Scuba to check out the follow-up to the review of the Garmin Descent Mk2i dive watch. As we speak, it is, well, Tuesday, November 24th, and I am waiting at this point in time for the Garmin Descent T1 transmitter to come here from USPS. I cannot wait. It is the final piece in the review, which I will be including in this video, so don't worry about it. It will be included. I know that it's what many of you are here waiting for, and the reason why there's such a delay in putting this together for you. Special thanks to Beach Cities Scuba out in California for being the place to be able to hook me up with this and getting it out to me as fast as possible. I know that there has been a substantial delay for anyone trying to get the transmitter at this point, where Garmin themselves had it at 3 to 5 weeks, and now it's 5 to 8 weeks of a delay on any purchases of this on their page. With that being said, let's take a look at the watch and some real world conditions of it. All right, I've had just under 3 weeks of playtime at this point with the Garmin Descent Mk2i. I have lots of thoughts on it. Most of these are based in the scuba world, as that's where many of you are here for, and others just touch on the overall thoughts of it as a multi-purpose watch. First and foremost, you cannot talk about this watch without talking about its amazing battery life. I literally got 15 days out of it on the first run with hours of activities in different circumstances, including runs with the watch using music and Bluetooth through the watch itself, gym workouts, half and full marathons, as well as just general everyday use. It's without a doubt going to satisfy anyone's needs when it comes to battery life. The data and customizability screens are fantastic, as it takes its lead from the Fenix 6, allowing the user to create and customize activity screens with up to 6 data fields. This, however, doesn't port over completely to the diving feature, which we'll be talking about shortly. When talking about the watch and its feel, I absolutely must give it up to Garmin for their changes with the capacitive buttons. Honestly, I didn't think that such a small change in an approach would make any difference to me, but it really did. They've got a great feel to them when you press, very spongy yet solid, and will give a solid vibration as well. It's hard to elaborate further on buttons, but as a guy who has owned 3 Garmins, including this watch's predecessor, it's a surprisingly good change. Another note, the durability on this watch is pretty insane as well. There have been multiple instances when I've just bashed my watch against a corner in the house or something outside, and there are no scuff marks at this point in time, so really awesome there. From this point on, we'll mainly focus on its diving functions and performance underwater, its details and information we can get from it. When speaking of the watch, one nice feature right out of the gate that this watch has is known as pool mode. This essentially allows you to do work in a pool environment without counting what you've done as a dive. It will, however, record your nitrogen, gas, and oxygen loads. Anyone who spends a decent amount of time in a pool will tell you that this is a fantastic feature, as some instructors and assistant instructors can spend hours a week getting in and out of the water for 5-minute intervals underwater dozens of times, but still having it log as a dive each time. The pool mode on the Garmin Descent Mk2i allows you to bypass the logging, but still allow you to keep an eye on your gas, your pressure, your nitrogen load, and your O2 load. It's super simple to access and will default out of this mode once the clock strikes midnight. Setting up your gas mixture is a breeze, and it can happen in a couple of different ways. This is a nice feature Garmin has here, in the fact that you can be 100% prepared before your dive, as we should be, or make changes on the fly as you read the information on your watch right before you dive. You might notice that you have your nitrox mix set for a previous dive and need to make a change right before the dive, which Garmin allows you to do without having to back out to the main screens really easily. With a press and a hold on the middle button on the left-hand side, your watch will automatically go into setup mode. The first screen is your dive setup. Clicking on that screen with the right side button moves you to a screen where you can customize the gas in either single gas, multi-gas, or CCR modes. When navigating onto the single screen gas mode, it lets you know what your last mixture and MOD is. Clicking here will allow you to adjust the oxygen and helium if diving trimix. Another simple click shows you your current O2 mix with the ability to move it up and down so you have your mixture, and then we're done with the setting of your gas. Navigating back to the main screen setup, you can also change your conservatism, air integration setup, including adding transmitters, how they're to be displayed on the screen, and an alert for losing the connection as well. Moving further down, you can adjust the PO2 setting how you would like it and set it up as warning levels as well. This section allows you to adjust where you can adjust your water type, dive end timeout, and safety stops. With the Mk2i following in the Phoenix 6 footsteps, you have widget glances you can access and run through very easily, as well as customize the location of the widgets, or if you choose, you can switch back to the old widget view as well. This is where you can navigate into your dive log and view surface intervals. The dive log will show you what you have stored in the watch, basic information up front, and dive details, which you can all read through, dive profiles, sac rates, temperature, and more. All these features are also accessed through the dive app on your smartphone and available virtually the moment your watch reads a connection with your phone once you get out of the water. The surface interval details are pretty straightforward, giving you a large readout, letting you know how long it's been since you were in the water, and oxygen tissue uptake, as well as CNSO2 readings and nitrogen levels. Dive planning is also a breeze to compute your no decompression limits, and if you're doing a deco plan for single and multiple dives. Following the prompts on the screen, with a click of the top right button, you can set your current dive details, O2 mixture, and depth. These two pieces alone will give you no decompression limits and MOD in a large and easy to see readout. You can also determine your no decompression limits by setting time rather than depth, which will let you know the maximum depth you can dive if you'd like to stay down for a certain amount of time with a certain mixture. For the watch and dive mode, it is customizable to a great degree with what gas you're using, changing the color of the displays, to what best suits you, GPS settings, and the layout of the screens. While there is customizability of the screens that you can see, there are limitations to the information that you can change with the basic screens. There are two standard screens that Garmin loads out with and one pre-dive screen as well. The pre-dive screen is pretty simple as it lets you know your gas mixture, MOD, surface intervals, water type, and safety stop. If you've been doing some whirlwind diving day after day with multiple changes in gas mixtures, this is a nice simple reminder, as while we are all great and safe divers, we might miss the changing of a gas mixture on dive 4 of the day when you switch from 36% nitrox to something slightly less, if it's not pre-banked. You can edit your mixtures, conservatism, water, PO2, alerts, safety stop, and more without having to back out and going into separate dive screens to set everything up. Once in and under, this screen changes to its main screen, which displays your current nitrogen load and gas mixture, temperature, no decompression limits, depth, and current dive time. There is a mild level of customizability on the screen as you have the ability to edit one screen of information here. I can imagine this is a safety thing that Garmin is putting in place so we don't fool around with things too much. Screen 2 is your compass, giving you current, direction, and heading, allowing you to easily set a heading, reset headings, and reciprocal headings. From here, you can add your own screens with much greater detail. This honestly though is where I have a critique of the display and data fields, as I have a strong familiarity with the Garmin Ecosystems and am familiar with the ability to set number of fields. Some might be perfectly fine to roll out with the full suite of customizable screens, but I challenge Garmin to come out with an update to allow as few as 3 or 4 customizable data fields rather than only allowing the full out 7-8 pieces of information on the screen. As far as what you can customize, I think the better question here is what can't you customize? The top 5 screens on this are all customizable fields such as current time, time to surface, temperature fields such as current, average, high, and low temperatures, battery life, CNS load, oxygen load, maximum depth, a bevy of heart rate fields, compass fields, and more. Adding the T1 transmitter to the mix gives you one extra data field out of the gate in the display settings for when you're actually diving, as you can see here. One nice thing about this is you can go into the display settings and move around the data screen so that you can organize these screens how you wish if you want to have that tank pressure viewed up first rather than in the third screen. Alright guys, let's be real. The biggest reason why we're all interested in this watch is because of the addition of the wireless transmitter to it and the use of the new subwave technology. So how does it actually stack up? Honestly, it's amazing. We took the opportunity first to check out the distance by setting a tank in the water and using a reel marked off every 2 feet. It was no problem reaching 40 feet of distance on multiple occasions with minimal dropper interference. As you approach that limit, your tank pressure will change color to orange, blink faster, and eventually you'll lose that signal, giving you a display and audible alarm letting you know. As for the information display, your tank pressure will now appear on the first screen above your depth and NDL, while the pressure screen itself will display your sac rate, which is calculated shortly after beginning each dive, and your available time remaining, which is based off of a number of factors. There is also remaining pressure and NDL time as well. You have the ability to set alarms for depth and time, as well as adjusting the length of your safety stop from 3 to 5 minutes, and the ability to change delays as to when to close out the dive in case you might be working on trainings and servicing more than once. Garmin automatically includes a deco lockout that will kick in when missing a deco stop, but Garmin, curiously enough, also gives you the ability to remove this lockout. But Garmin lets you know that if this happens, obviously there's an increased risk of decompression sickness. When in a dive, you have the ability to navigate between screens with a standard double tap on the watch or with the flick of a wrist. The flick of a wrist is honestly a really nice little feature added in case you might be holding lights or cameras or things that require you to use both hands. The double tap method works perfectly fine and can be used even with thick dry suit gloves without issue. Diving brightness was set to 30% when I was diving, and the backlight was set to always on underwater, and my first dive took 2% of my battery life on a 45-minute dive. This honestly is an increase between the Mk2i and the Mk1. But with that being said, my first dive on the Mk2i was without a transmitter attached, and as we have all read, the battery life is lower when using a transmitter. When including the transmitter in the mix, you'll lose a little bit more battery, as my 45-minute dive took a whopping 4% of the battery when it was all said and done, still continuing that theme of an amazing battery. Moving on to what the dive looks like in the app and dive log at the end of the day, when adding a transmitter, you're able to see more details than before. You still have your dive profile and map of the entry and exit, showing you your depth, average depth, temperatures, and surface intervals, but the log also now goes into more important details such as your sac rate, RMV, and pressure rates in a nice interchangeable view with a click of a button. Overall, this is a fantastic watch with amazing features both in and out of the water, and in my mind, truly lives up to the name that I've given it, the one watch to rule them all. Great battery life, fantastic features such as adding the onboard music storage and the easy-to-use interface with all parts of the watch. Drawbacks to the watch are few and far between for me, but as I brought up, small issues such as the customizable add-on screens and the number of data fields being one. If you're switching from a larger wrist-mounted dive computer, there is obviously a transition to a smaller screen. It'll also take you some time to get used to the placement as you would like if you're wearing a dry suit, for example, as the wrist seals can get in the way of the buttons. But the Mk2i screen is 33% larger than the Mk1. Other than that, the largest drawback is price and availability. Garmin is currently having a tough time keeping up on demand, even as the Mk2i is backdated 3 to 5 weeks right now, and the transmitter even longer. When you're talking $1,500, you're hoping that a transmitter is included, as I first assumed it was like many others, only to find out that the T1 transmitter wasn't included with the Mk2i and was an additional $400. If you're really looking to take it all in, after taxes, this will set you back over $2,000. I can imagine in the not too distant future there will be a bundle between these pieces, as I've already seen images floating around on places like Instagram and Facebook alluding to a bundle. But at the end of the day, if money isn't a worry for you and you're looking for the top-of-the-line piece of equipment both in and out of the water, the Garmin Descent Mk2i really is an amazing piece of technology and equipment set to bridge the world for many who are looking to put all aspects of their life into one smart device. Time will tell how it will be received, as I can imagine COVID has put a strain on the suppliers, but if Garmin really can get all of these kinks worked out before the holiday season and into Q1 of 2021, as life hopefully gets back to normal, I would say they have a hit on their hands. That's it for now, and thank you for taking your time to watch this video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, as we're always updating our content. We build our categories off of your comments and what you want to see, so let us know. And as always, we'll see you next time back on the dive boat.